Hello, and welcome to Quiet Nights, your gentle retreat into a world of calm and tranquility. Tonight, we invite you to unwind with a soothing story, crafted to ease your mind and guide you toward a restful night's sleep. But before we begin, take a deep, unhurried breath, and then another. Feel the weight of the day slowly melt away, like soft clouds drifting across the evening sky. Let go of any lingering thoughts, any tension that still clings to you. There's no rush, no expectations, only this quiet moment, just for you. As you listen, let the rhythm of the words lull you into a state of peaceful relaxation. Now close your eyes, settle in, and let the whispers of the night carry you away. Welcome to Quiet Nights. An age of ice had descended, abrupt and absolute, locking the kingdom in a perpetual frost. Spring became a forgotten myth, a season whispered only in the fading memories of the old. So profound was the freeze that generations were born into its grip, reaching adulthood innocent of thaw, ignorant of bursting blossoms or the benediction of summer sun upon their skin. Their reality was shaped by hoarfrost and endurance. Though elders spun legends of warmth, of rolling emerald hills and rivers like liquid sapphire, these children of the long winter could conjure only pale imitations. The vibrant pastels they perceived belonged not to ephemeral flowers, but to the bruised twilight sky. Green, for them, was the stoic, unchanging hue of the needle-leafed conifer. Nature, overwhelmingly, wore white. Why this unrelenting winter had claimed their world remained shrouded in conjecture. Yet one truth stood stark and undeniable. Simultaneous with the frost's arrival, a colossal spire of ice had erupted from the kingdom's heart. So treacherous, so glass-smooth and unyielding was its surface, it earned the name, the Spire of Shards. Rumor, persistent as the cold, held that this glacial monolith was the handiwork of a vengeful mage, who, slighted by a monarch, had condemned the king and his daughter to an eternal frozen exile upon its summit. Countless fireside chronicles recounted the fates of men who dared the ascent, bearing tokens of courtship for the marooned princess. Futile endeavors, everyone. The climb itself was a near impossibility. The peak jealously patrolled, so the stories claimed, by a raptor of mythic proportions and terrifying might. Each aspirant, whether knight clad in courage or humble farmer driven by hope, ultimately surrendered to the slick inclines. Even those equipped with axe or pick, seeking purchase in the ungiving ice, found themselves forced to relinquish their tools to fend off the winged guardian's onslaught. To conquer the spire and withstand the aerial assault seemed beyond mortal capacity. In a village huddled at the mountain's base lived Kalen, a youth raised entirely within the shadow of that immense frozen monument. He absorbed the tales of failure, witnessed the return of defeated hopefuls. Like all his contemporaries, winter was the only season etched into his being. While the ancestral narratives of summer held a certain fascination, he felt no intrinsic longing for what he'd never known. Yet, Kalen possessed a spirit drawn to challenge, a keen mind stirring beneath quiet diligence. His days were consumed by chores, aiding his parents in their struggle against the lean times. But in stolen moments, he'd glide across the village's frozen pond, carving elegant arcs, his gaze often lifting to the glittering, indifferent peak. As manhood approached, a singular ambition took root, to be the one soul capable of reaching the princess, of winning her regard. Though amiable lasses resided within his own community, a deeper yearning pulled him towards the unknown, towards a life less ordinary, seasoned with adventure. His thoughts circled the glistening spire relentlessly until a plan, audacious in its simplicity, crystallized in his mind. One evening, gathered at the rough-hewn table by the family hearth, he shared his intention. He would employ his ice skates, binding their blades to his feet, transforming them into anchors against the glassy slope. Thus secured, his hands would remain free to counter the legendary avian sentinel. His mother's face creased with worry, envisioning peril in his madcap scheme. His father, equally dubious, questioned how Kalen could possibly prevail where worldly, seasoned men had faltered. They pressed him. How could mere hands repel such a beast? What offering could he, a simple villager, possibly present to royalty? Kalen conceded the gaps in his strategy, but remained unshakable. The ascent would commence at dawn. A mother's whispered fears found a neighbor's ear. That neighbor, in hushed tones, confided in her daughter. The daughter related to the boy across the lane. Like wildfire crackling through dry tinder, the news spread. Consequently, when Kalen emerged, prepared to confront the mountain, the entire village stood as silent witness. With a rucksack containing naught but a loaf of bread and a flask of water, he slung his skates, lashed together, over one shoulder. Ignoring the collective stare, he'd bowed against their unspoken doubts. He walked with unwavering resolve towards the enigmatic peak. Deep breaths steadied his pulse as he trod the path leading to the spire's base. The curious throng trailing behind him faded from his focus. His plan remained stark: skates for climbing, hands for the bird. The absence of a gift, the uncertainty of reception. These were matters for the summit. Beyond this, he carried no further preparation. The woods lay still around him, draped in their perpetual mantle of crystalline snow. Each footfall resonated, unnaturally loud in the profound silence. Thud, crunch, thud, crunch. The rhythm became a mantra, calming his mind, guiding him into a state of focused meditation. And then he was there. Abruptly, a sheer precipice of gleaming ice soared before him, offering neither handhold nor foothold to the naked eye. Kalen felt the weight of the villager's gaze from the tree line. He dropped the skates, shrugged off his pack. Seating himself on a frost-covered boulder, he exchanged his sturdy boots for the bladed footwear, stowing the boots within the rucksack for the anticipated arrival. Then, turning, he faced the colossal obstacle directly. Securing the pack, he took a tentative step, driving the toe pick of one skate into the unyielding surface. He shifted his weight, planted the other blade slightly higher. The incline was severe, yet just shallow enough to allow him to lean forward, bracing himself with outstretched hands against the slick, cold wall. Methodically, painstakingly, one foot above the other, the ascent began. Kalen banished thoughts of time elapsed or energy remaining. Pick, step, hoist. Pick, step, hoist. He surrendered to the slow cadence, eyes fixed only on the ice immediately before him, refusing to glance aside, let alone up or down. The murmur of the village watchers dissolved into the periphery of his awareness. Imperceptibly at first, he climbed beyond the mountain's basal shadow, reaching altitudes where the chill rays of the winter sun struck the ice full on. The effect was breathtaking. Simultaneously translucent and impenetrable, the spires seemed fractured into infinite internal mirrors, catching and refracting the pale sunlight. It wasn't merely ice. It glittered as if carved from faceted crystal. Higher he climbed, and the reflected brilliance intensified, becoming almost blinding, assaulting his vision from myriad angles within the glacial mass. Yet, paradoxically, the light brought no warmth. Instead, the cold deepened, intensified by a persistent, icy breeze that keened around his head and shoulders. A high, thin whistling in his ears. How long he had climbed, he could not guess. His focused trance was eventually shattered by a different sound, a distant avian cry carried on the wind, faint initially, then growing inexorably closer. Tilting his face skyward, shielding his eyes, he searched for the source, the infamous guardian, surely. At first, only the dazzling glare met his gaze. Then, abruptly, impossibly large wings blotted out the sun. A fleeting relief from the light, instantly replaced by the terror of knowing the creature arrowed directly towards him. It descended in a blizzard of wintry white plumage. The colossal beast beat its wings furiously about his head. Digging his skate blades deeper for purchase, Kalen instinctively hunched, shielding his face beneath his arms. He flailed, attempting to swat it away. But the creature held the advantage of height and ferocity. Failure loomed, the terrifying prospect of losing his grip, of plummeting down the slope like all who had come before. Turning his face upward with sudden, bold resolve, he saw the bird's dark talons hovering just above. Without conscious thought, both hands shot up, clamping fiercely around the creature's legs, one powerful limb grasped in each fist. The animal shrieked, a sound of pure outrage. Then it began to rise. Its powerful wings beat the air, showering Kalen and the mountainside with a fine spray of frost. He clung on with desperate strength as the bird ascended, wrenching his skates free from their icy purchase. He was rising, up, up, airborne. Attempting, perhaps, to shed the irksome weight dangling from its feet, the white eagle poured all its energy into flight, carrying Kalen high above the spire, soaring towards the summit. Initially, his eyes were squeezed shut against the vertigo and wind. After moments that stretched into an eternity, he cautiously opened them, glancing downward. The glistening ice rushed past beneath him at astonishing speed. Sideways, his view expanded beyond the mountain to the snowbound panorama below, a world rendered miniature, houses like toys, trees like pins, roads like threads woven into a fantastical, unreal tapestry. The spectacle was magnificent, yet his skates felt like leaden weights, and the muscles in his arms screamed, nearing their limit. The ascent ceased. They were now level with the summit, speeding across a flat, icy plateau. Just as he felt his grip faltering, unable to endure another second, a singular object materialized ahead. A tree, standing utterly alone in the expanse of white, radiating a brilliant, impossible golden light. Alive with an illusion of warmth, its myriad small leaves seemed to shimmer, to stir, the sole animate thing in that frozen domain. Kalen doubted the landing would be gentle, but it was his only hope. As the eagle swooped low over the golden canopy, he let go. He impacted hard, enveloped by a resonant, musical vibration like 1,000 wind chimes stirred at once. It took a moment to gather his scattered senses. When he did, he cautiously pushed himself upright. He found himself inside the largest bird's nest imaginable, woven not from twigs, but from strands of solidified light. Looking up and around through the golden foliage, he saw the nest's centerpiece, a massive, glittering egg, incandescently gold in the ambient light, large enough, perhaps, to fill his entire rucksack. Examining it closely, he saw its base was fused to the nest floor by a thick layer of ice and frost. It appeared ancient, long, undisturbed. Crawling nearer, Kalen ran a hand over the smooth, cool surface. A gentle push confirmed it was frozen fast. He couldn't dislodge it without risking damage. Yet he desired this egg. It was the singular treasure he'd found, a potential offering for the princess. Sitting back on his heels, he pondered. An idea surfaced. Reaching into his rucksack, he retrieved his water flask from its relatively warm interior. Uncorking it, he carefully poured the lukewarm liquid over the egg's frozen base. As hoped, the slight warmth was sufficient to melt the binding frost. Slowly, surely, the icy sheath contracted, vanished, revealing the pure, golden shell beneath. The moment he sensed movement, Kalen gently rocked the egg. With minimal resistance, it detached, free. His respite was brief. The wintry-white eagle had not departed. Screaming its indignation, it plunged back towards the tree, materializing from the glare. Kalen saw its clear intent, to prevent the egg's removal. Glancing wildly about, he seized the only other item available. As the eagle's talons descended once more towards his head, he thrust a loaf of bread from his rucksack into their grasp. Mistaking the offering for its intended prize, the bird squawked, a sound oddly triumphant, and soared away, its cries fading into the vast, cold sky. Kalen remained still for a long moment, relief washing over him in a dizzying wave. Assured the eagle was truly gone, he turned back to the egg. Retrieving his boots from the pack, he carefully nestled the golden orb inside, securing the flap tightly. He removed the skates, donned his boots once more, and draped the skates over his shoulder. Leaving the rucksack momentarily at his feet, he stood carefully within the enormous nest, surveying the summit. At first, only a vast expanse of blinding whiteness met his gaze. The frosty plateau seemed utterly barren, reflecting the sun's rays with fierce intensity from an unending vista of ice. Shielding his eyes, however, he perceived a faint, intermittent sparkle in the distance. Holding his breath, he watched. It flashed again. Something else existed out there. Whether it was the fabled castle or not, it was the sole feature interrupting the icy monotony. He resolved to reach it. With the precious, heavy egg secured on his back, he cautiously descended through the golden branches and dropped lightly to the frozen ground below. Hoisting the rucksack firmly onto his shoulders, he began walking towards the mysterious glimmer. Time lost its conventional measure as he traversed the frozen plain. The frigid air numbed his nose and fingers. His eyes ached from the relentless glare. The sun, however, tracked its slow arc across the sky, now hanging lower towards the horizon than during his morning climb. Mid-afternoon, he judged, hoping desperately to reach the distant light before nightfall claimed the exposed summit. No other shelter presented itself. He made steady progress across the ice sheet, untroubled by any further sign of the white eagle. As he drew nearer, the softening light of late afternoon revealed a structure that grew in stature with each step. Soon, he was certain, this was the castle from the village legends, and what a palace of ice it was. As if sculpted by elemental forces, its towers and turrets thrust skyward in immense, glittering formations. An impossibly tall and delicate fortress spun from light, reflecting every hue of the descending sun. A mirror of orange, pink, and molten gold. Reaching the forefront, he paused before a drawbridge, frozen solid in its lowered position, across a moat that was now a river of static ice, winding smoothly around the fortress. Picking his way carefully across the bridge, he stopped before an enormous pair of doors, intricately carved from the same translucent ice. He had arrived at the threshold of the unknown, the point where his simple plan dissolved. He did the only thing that occurred to him. He knocked. The sound echoed within the glass castle, startlingly loud, as if it were the first such intrusion it had ever known. He felt the vibration shudder through the structure's core, a sound both infinite and brittle. He waited, the silence stretching. Then, with agonizing slowness, one massive door began to creak open. Shuddering with the immense effort, as though recalling a long-forgotten function, the portal yielded. Pushing with all her might at the base of the towering door stood a young lady. She wore a simple white gown beneath a heavy cloak. Atop this, incongruously, yet practically, sat a fuzzy blue muffler and a pair of substantial, woolly earmuffs. She peered up at Kaelin, astonishment widening her eyes. Her mouth opened as if to speak, then closed again. Taking a deep breath, she asked, with surprising assertiveness, "Who, precisely, are you?" Kaelin, unsure what he'd anticipated, was certainly not prepared for direct interrogation by the princess herself. He stammered his origin, the village below the mountain, and added, feeling slightly foolish as the words left his lips, that he wished, if she were amenable, to rescue her. She regarded him dubiously. He became acutely aware of his less than heroic appearance, burdened by skates and a rucksack, lacking sword or armor. Then his face brightened. "I found something special," he offered. "I brought it for you. May I come inside?" Curiosity flickered in her eyes. She nodded, stepping aside with a guarded expression, gesturing towards the interior hall. Callan entered. The cold within was as profound as it was outside. Now he understood the earmuffs. Before he could present his gift, she straightened, drawing herself up. "I am Lyra," she stated simply. He managed an awkward bow, murmuring his own name in return. She inclined her head graciously. "So then, Callan, what have you brought me?" Callan swung the rucksack from his shoulder, opened the flap, and slowly, carefully, drew forth the glittering golden egg. Lyra's eyes widened dramatically at the sight. She reached out and gently took it from his hands. He recounted his journey, the climb, the eagle, the nest. Hearing his tale, she confirmed she had often seen the great white bird circling the spire, suspecting it was the avian form of the sorcerer who had cursed them long ago. She spoke sadly of her father, who had departed the castle years past, seeking the mage to plead for their release, but had never returned. And so she remained, trapped in time, the passing years leaving no mark upon her. Callan expressed his sympathy for her plight, but Lyra seemed preoccupied by the egg cradled in her hands. Shifting it gently, she exclaimed, "Callan, it grows warm." As he watched, the egg began to emit a soft luminescence, as if lit from within. Its golden surface, previously static, seemed to shimmer and shift. Uncertain, Lyra carefully placed the egg on the center flagstone and stepped back. They watched, transfixed, as the egg glowed ever brighter, suffusing the vast hall with a warm, golden radiance. Lyra pulled off her muffler, murmuring about the sudden heat. Callan realized he, too, felt intensely warm. Instinctively retreating farther, they became aware of a new sound. The distinct dripping, then trickling, then rushing babble of water. It echoed all around them. The castle was melting. Without a word exchanged, they threw open the great doors and hurried outside, back across the rapidly thawing drawbridge. Turning, they witnessed an incredible metamorphosis. The ice structure dissolved from its core outward, a brilliant shaft of light erupting skyward into the twilight like a geyser of fire. With a deep, resonant rumble, the center collapsed inward, sending waves splashing into the now liquid moat. To their utter astonishment, a magnificent bird, composed of living flame, fiery orange and red, soared upward from the deluge. It paused, hovering, beating its wings over the remnants of the ice palace. Each downbeat sent cascades of warm water radiating outward, thawing the moat completely, flooding the surrounding summit. Callan knew they had to descend immediately. As the great phoenix circled and cried out above them, he made a swift decision. Letting his heavy skates fall to the wet ground, he told Lyra to hold on to him tightly. She complied without hesitation, linking her arms around his neck. Then, as the beautiful, fiery creature swooped low overhead, he reached up and grasped its burning feet. Clinging with the same desperate tenacity he'd shown with the frosty eagle on the ascent. Without protest, the firebird bore them aloft. The ephemeral ice palace vanished below, the ground dissolving into runoff. The triumphant phoenix wheeled, then plunged downward, heading directly for the village nestled far beneath. The mountainside, no longer slick ice, but streaked with rivulets of meltwater, sped past. The wind rushing against their faces was powerful, startlingly warm. They squeezed their eyes shut, concentrating solely on holding fast. Then, abruptly, their feet brushed soft, wet earth. They released the bird and tumbled in a heap onto the clearing at the mountain's foot. The phoenix soared upward, a fantastic incandescent orb against the night sky, then vanished into the distance with a final, echoing cry. A shower of golden sparks drifted down in its wake, like fading embers from a celestial fire. Kalen and Lyra lay in the damp, melting snow, gazing skyward, catching their breath. After several moments of stunned silence, they turned their faces towards each other and broke into laughter. They had succeeded. Lyra was free. Kalen was home. The villagers, having long since abandoned their vigil, had retreated to the warmth of their hearths and evening meals. No one witnessed Kalen's return, trudging homeward through the moonlight with an unfamiliar young woman leaning on his arm. The surprise was profound, therefore, when their son reappeared miraculously on their doorstep. His mother, overcome, gasped so sharply she spilled the simmering stew. By the time the kingdom awoke the following morning, the world was utterly transformed. A warm, steady rain showered the land, washing away the last vestiges of the long winter. Snow and ice vanished as if they had never been. The rain persisted for a full day before ceasing, allowing the sun to break through. When the first true warmth of spring touched the people's skin after uncounted years of cold, the villages erupted in joyous celebration. As weeks turned into months, the children learned the forgotten language of seasons. They discovered the vibrant green of new grass, the kaleidoscope of colors that painted the landscape through spring, summer, and autumn. Cheerful birdsong filled the air, spilling from the branches of trees finally allowed to bud and leaf. Prosperity slowly returned to the land, and when Kalen eventually asked Lyra, the former winter princess, for her hand in marriage, he presented her not with a single rare bloom, but with a breathtaking bouquet, bursting with flowers in every conceivable color of the rainbow. Papery leaves disintegrate beneath your boots as you drift down the country lane. Ahead, a sign beckons towards your destination. Emberlight Farms, it declares, the words hewn into timber and swinging from an aged, sun-leached wooden gate. Far beyond, forested peaks wear a tapestry woven in autumn's signature hues. Here, however, the terrain yields to flatness, a perfect cradle for pumpkins. The sky stretches out, a gentle cerulean expanse, dotted with clouds like soft, buoyant pillows. Your gaze drops, snagging on a flawless maple leaf resting near the rust and gold tree towering beside you. Bending, you gingerly lift it by its delicate stem. Held aloft against the sun's muted radiance, its intricate structure is a marvel. Unlike its crisping neighbors, this leaf retains a pliable firmness, a lingering whisper of moisture from its arboreal life. Too exquisite to abandon, you decide, carefully tucking it into your satchel, a memento secured. As you approach the gate, a soft current of air sighs past. You feel its coolness through the weave of your shirt, prompting you to cinch your fine wool scarf a fraction tighter. A metal clasp secures the gate. Sliding your thumb beneath, you lift it. A rattle and groan echo its venerable age. Decades, surely, it has stood sentinel on this farm. You ease the latch back down, securing the gate behind you. Turning, you inhale deeply the warm, earthy perfume of ripe pumpkins mingles with the sweet, sharp tang of apples. The pumpkin patch unfurls from a short dirt pathway, flanked by tall, slender trees. Leaves in every shade of red, gold, brown, and russet litter the pale earth track. Some surrender with a satisfying crunch underfoot. Others, still soft, yield silently. You near a small wooden kiosk at the point of entry. A woman sits within, offering a quiet welcome. Kind greetings are exchanged, a brief murmur of words. You retrieve the necessary cash from your pocket, placing it in her hand. A smile touches her lips as the metal cash box clinks open. She presents your ticket. For a moment, your fingertips trace the papery texture, turning it over once, twice, before it disappears into your pocket. Past the booth, the full scope of the patch reveals itself. Gourds of myriad sizes and pallets sprawl before you. Diminutive orange pie pumpkins nestle near the pale, spectral allure of ghost pumpkins. You pause, admiring the stark beauty of the white ones, their thick, dark stems like handles, their sides gleaming. How might they taste, you ponder? Sharp or sugary? It's been some time since your last visit. The sheer diversity Mother Nature conjures. Green, dappled yellow. Even party-colored wonders had almost faded from memory. Surveying the scene, you realize pumpkins are but one facet of this place. Your eyes alight on a nearby barn, white-sided with a black roof, strangely echoing the ghost pumpkin's aesthetic. Signs point towards further adventures. A corn maze, an apple orchard, hay rides, a bonfire. An especially inviting nook hosts a vendor dispensing treats and warm drinks. A definite future stop, you resolve. To your right, a large map is mounted on a wooden post. You trace the route to the apple orchard, etching the farm's layout into your mind. Towards the orchard you head, seeking the perfect, crisp, crimson apple. For a time, you follow a narrow path bordered by displays of painted pumpkins, festive adornments, and substantial hay bales. The air holds a pleasing quietude. Though families and small groups dot the landscape, it's far from crowded. A peaceful excursion awaits, a thought that brings a quiet contentment. Soon, You arrive at the orchard. It's quite modest, perhaps a dozen trees in all, yet each is laden, dripping with plump, ruby apples and leaves still vibrantly green. Both carpet the faded grass beneath. A gentle breeze drifts through the boughs, the crisp air brushing your arms. Though swaddled in a warm cardigan and scarf, the light wind finds the small interstices in the knit. Yet, beneath the soft autumn sun, cocooned in wool, a profound sense of cozy comfort settles over you. Wandering slowly, you witness a gleaming red apple detach itself from a branch just ahead. It bounces once, settling into a drift of fallen leaves. Intrigued, you approach. Leaves rustle as your hand delves into the pile to retrieve the fruit. It feels satisfyingly firm in your palm as you rotate it, searching for flaws. But it is glossy, unblemished, perfectly ripe. This one, surely, was destined for you. Exiting the orchard along another shadowed path, you encounter a cluster of wooden signs, arrows pointing diversely. One proclaims candied apples, accompanied by a bold arrow. Your initial plan was for a simple, unadorned apple, but now your senses quicken. Fruit in hand, you obey the sign's direction. A minute or two of walking brings you to the promised booth. The stand offers freshly made candied and caramel apples, adorned with various toppings, alongside the enticing option to craft your own. Following a brief exchange with the relaxed farmer presiding over the booth, he hands you a pointed wooden stick. Taking it carefully, you pierce the apple's base, guiding the stick into its core. Once satisfied it's secure, you slowly submerge the fruit into a vat of rich, molten caramel sauce. The scent of smoky, liquid sugar drifts upwards as the viscous, hot coating envelops the apple's skin. Your mouth waters in anticipation of this indulgence. For the final flourish, you roll the caramel-drenched sphere in a bed of chopped peanuts. Perfection, you think. Thanking the farmer for his assistance, you turn away, heading back towards the main patch. A pair of children, hands clasped, dash past, their faces alight with eagerness for their own candied apple adventure. Presently, you find a wooden bench, an inviting spot to relax and savor your creation. It emits a soft creak as you sit, but feels solid beneath you. From this vantage point, the view across the patch is splendid. A straw scarecrow, clad in linen overalls, stands sentinel amidst hundreds of orange pumpkins, ranging from diminutive to grand. Glancing down at the caramel apple, you turn it slowly, admiring your handiwork. Its surface shines, reflecting the soft afternoon light in a single branch of the maple tree behind you. Raising it, You sink your teeth carefully into the sweet, yielding surface. It tastes every bit as wonderful as memory promised. You linger on the bench, absorbing the panorama of the pumpkin kingdom. In the distance, the mountains meet an undulating horizon line, defined by ripe orange gourds. From here, it appears as though a chaotic tangle of curly and straight stems pokes directly into the sky. The very air breathes autumn. Hints of cinnamon and apple intertwine with the earthy fragrances of caramel and pumpkin spice, layered over notes of fallen leaves, rich soil, and dry straw. Every element of this moment conspires to make you feel utterly warm and sheltered. The urge to select a pumpkin to take home stirs, but you decide to wait. Carrying a heavy gourd seems premature when so much remains unexplored. For now, you simply contemplate the possibilities. Which size, which shape would be best? As you continue observing the patch, you watch families, couples, lone wanderers meander through rows of vines and earth. Some capture moments with cameras. Others are intent on finding their perfect orange squash, bending low, expressions of focused curiosity on their faces. Small red wagons appear, carrying children alongside their treasured pumpkin finds. Others clutch their chosen gourds under their arms. After some moments of quiet contemplation, you rise from the creaking bench and set off towards the black and white barn glimpsed earlier. It lies just beyond the apple orchard you recently departed. Instead of retracing your steps to the right, you opt for a path leading left. As the day matures, the breeze acquires a sharper edge. You fasten another button on your cardigan, drawing the warmth closer. Walking towards the barn, you notice crows wheeling overhead, their calls sharp against the quiet air. Lifting your gaze to the cloud-strewn sky, you admire the way the autumnal sun has begun its gentle descent. Following another left turn, you arrive at the quaint barn, centrally located within the patch. It seems a nexus, a meeting point for the farm staff and visitors alike. You spot one farmer, foot propped casually against the barn wall, conversing with another. Periodically, both raise steaming mugs, cupped between their palms. One man is attired in loose overalls over a brown plaid shirt. The other wears blue jeans, a simple shirt tucked neatly at the waist. Both sport sturdy, comfortable-looking boots. They share laughter and easy conversation, clearly relishing their warm beverages. The soothing rustle of leaves in a nearby tree captures your attention. Turning, you witness a cascade of them, detaching, twirling, and dancing in their descent, before settling onto the grass. A few catch the breeze, lofted towards the barn, drawing your eyes along with them. From the periphery of your vision, a group of horses comes into focus. Contained within an unpainted picket fence, they graze peacefully. You watch their slow, methodical cropping of grass, their contented munching. A smile touches your lips as you admire them from a respectful distance. One horse boasts a rich, chocolatey coat with a mane to match. Its companion is a study in golden brown, crowned with a blonde mane. A sudden gust tosses the fine hairs of their manes skyward. They shake their heads, clearing their vision, before returning their focus to the pasture. Truly noble, majestic creatures, you reflect. Just then, another farmer emerges from the rear of the barn. She begins to groom the chocolate-brown horse, which seems to relish the focused attention. Deciding it's time to move on, you leave the horses to their quiet pleasures. All around, the pumpkin patch hums with gentle activity. You spot a tractor pulling a wagon laden with hay bales. Families are assembling, anticipating a ride around the farm. You recognize this as a quintessential patch experience, momentarily tempted by the thought of feeling the crisp October air rush past, bouncing along the farm tracks. But you relinquish the idea, leaving the activity to those already waiting. As the wagon fills and departs, you find yourself relatively alone near the barn. The space holds an almost palpable calm. Small wonder your mind feels so serene, so relaxed here. A distinct crackling sound drifts towards you from the barn's far side. Recalling the map, you realize this must be the direction of the fire pit. You walk towards the sound, noticing a thin plume of smoke rising as the crackling intensifies. You arrive at a circle formed by cut logs, centered around a medium-sized bonfire glowing warmly amongst protective rocks. The familiar, comforting aroma of burning wood greets your senses. Few things feel more intrinsically autumnal than a bonfire, you muse. The entrance to this area is marked by an archway constructed of cut wood adorned with dried corn stalks. Flanking the entrance are two hay bales, each topped with an attractive assortment of squash. Passing through the archway, you admire the thoughtful details evident throughout the patch. Above, strings of fairy lights form a twinkling canopy over the fire pit area. Beneath this gentle illumination, sturdy hay bales and logs offer inviting seating. To your right sits a covered area where vendors serve refreshments to passers-by. The temperature is noticeably cooler now as evening approaches, and the prospect of a hot beverage is undeniably appealing. You happily approach the shelter, where the air is thick with the scent of cinnamon and spices. The cheerful crackle of the bonfire provides a perfect auditory backdrop. A handwritten menu on a chalkboard hangs from a wooden pillar. Taking a moment to peruse the offerings, pumpkin spice, hot chocolate, warm apple cider, coffee, you deliberate. The pumpkin spice hot chocolate calls to you. You are, after all, at a pumpkin patch, and the menu boasts it's a homemade blend. Besides, the earthy, chocolatey fragrance already seems to beckon. The attendant smiles as he passes you your drink. It arrives in a dark green ceramic mug, charmingly painted with little pumpkins. You pay, offer thanks, and wave a brief goodbye. Turning, your gaze returns to the inviting bonfire. A fleeting wish surfaces to have one just like it in your own backyard. You envision roasting marshmallows over the flames, watching them achieve that perfect, crisp exterior before yielding to a gooey, sweet interior. Friends would gather, sharing ghost stories appropriate for the season. You'd sit close to the warmth, swapping tales, fortified by hot cider and tea. The lengthening nights would feel shorter, brightened by good company. Crossing the grass, you select one of the hay bales for a seat. Running your palm across its surface, you feel the rough, dry texture, catching its faint, dusty scent beneath the dominant aroma of the hot chocolate cradled in your hands. You inhale deeply, feeling a profound sense of relaxation wash over you. Bringing the mug closer, you savor the delicious fragrance more intensely before taking a generous sip of the pleasantly warm liquid. It soothes you from the inside out. Closing your eyes, you allow yourself a moment to simply be, focusing entirely on your senses. The rustle of leaves in the surrounding maples and birches, the companionable crackle of the fire beside you, the scents of autumn envelop you, a complex perfume of spice, fruit, earth, and smoke. You feel utterly at peace. As the sun dips lower, surrendering the sky to approaching night, the fairy lights seem to intensify their twinkle, the fire radiating a more potent warmth. It has been a truly beautiful day. Now you simply sit, sipping your hot chocolate, appreciating the crispness of the season, the fire's embrace, the whisper of the breeze. Later, you will find that perfect pumpkin to carry home, and who knows, perhaps the backyard fire pit won't remain merely a daydream this season. Perhaps friends will gather soon for homemade pumpkin pies and stories shared in the firelight. It doesn't have to be a dream, you affirm silently, letting the unique atmosphere of this place seep into your very being. You hold the warm mug with both hands, utterly content, profoundly cozy. You sit, offering a silent thanks to the earth for the splendor of autumn and for this wonderful day spent at Emberlight Farms.